Hello, everybody, and welcome into another episode of the Daily Dose. I apologize for not being here yesterday, Monday. We had the AWS servers go down, so it was a hard time to record the podcast and then upload it for you all, but we are back today. And with that, you have the news that the podcast show is called The Daily Dose under the Healthcare Rewritten podcast. So this is, again, where we're going to do this every day, Monday through Friday. We're going to break down health news that's going to be up to date and current. And I want to talk about something that happened last Thursday. There was a press at the White House. There was a presser at the White House, and RFK did a lot of talking, and President Trump was there. So as you can probably imagine, this is a very polarizing subject. So I want to break down what was said. I want to clear some things up, clear the air, and bring some truth to the matter and let you know what you can actually do and what the data is actually showing. So we're going to break down essentially what the White House said, and really they said the quiet part out loud. Fertility is falling. Puberty is making a huge shift, especially in women, and testosterone is absolutely collapsing, especially in our younger males. The question is why? So here is exactly what RFK said at the White House. I'm going to read a couple quotes that he said, and then we'll break down exactly what is going on, why is this happening, and what can we actually do about it. So a couple things that he said. He said teen boys have half the sperm and half the testosterone as a 65-year-old man. He also said that girls are hitting puberty about 6 years earlier than before. Again, these are all quoted. So again, there's more context to all of these. I highly encourage you go listen to the actual presser if you have more questions or you want more clarity. He also said that fertility rates is a national security issue, which I actually agree with. And then on top of that, he talked a little bit about other factors going into Medicare, Medicaid, pharmaceuticals, but we're not going to dive into that component. We're going to dive into the main points that he hit on, which is testosterone in males, the fertility issue, and then girls hitting puberty at a younger age. We're going to hit on those three topics today. Okay. So specifically what he said was this. He said, today the average teenager in this country has 50% of the sperm count, 50% of the testosterone as a 65-year-old man. He also said that our girls are hitting puberty 6 years earlier, and that's really bad. He was quoted and saying that fertility rates are just spiraling out of control. A teenager today, an American teenager, has less testosterone than a 68-year-old man. Okay, now, again, when these are quoted and you're reading these from other news sources, whether that is, a written news source or MSNBC, Fox, CBS, CNN, wherever you get your news, again, make sure that you're paying attention to the context of what's actually being stated. Now, some of the things that he said have been taken out of context, but also he's not quite there with everything that he did state too. I feel like there's some inaccuracies with some of the data, and there always will be. Okay, I mean, especially when you go and you discuss healthcare and health data and health research, there's nuance to a lot of things. No research or data is absolutely perfect. And that's really important to take into consideration when reviewing information. One of my favorite things to do is look at the data, but then also make sure that you're utilizing common sense. I feel like there's a lot of people out there who don't do that. And if you just look around the room right now, or you look around your surrounding circle, I'm sure we can all agree on a couple things. Number one, the fertility rates, okay, and the people in America having children has decreased. Okay, for what reasons we'll discuss that. We can also talk about the fact that testosterone in general in males has decreased, not just in older males, but in the male population in general. The rates and levels of testosterone that men used to have versus what we have now is generally lower. And we can also state that girls are starting their periods, that menarche, way earlier than they used to. Now, the question is why, so we're going to start diving into those things. Let's first start with puberty in girls. Now, I specifically want to talk about menarche, so that's the first period that a woman has. Okay. The median age is roughly about 12 and a half years. That was back between 1950 and 1969. Okay. They have pulled new data, and that data is from 2000 to 2005. Okay. And that age dropped to roughly 11.9 years. Okay. So roughly about a year difference. okay, in median age of menarche. Now here's the couple problems. Number one, does the world look the same now as it did in 2005? Absolutely not, right? So there's that in and of itself that we need new updated data. Okay. Also, let's talk about other areas of when menarche starts. So early menarche, which is roughly under the age of 11 years old, increased from 8.6% to 15.5%. So that's women starting their or getting that first period before the age of 11. There's also very early menarche, which is roughly before 9 years of age, and that increased from 0.6% all the way up to 1.4%. So again, this is something that we're seeing statistically, but I'm also seeing it in my clinic. Other holistic and functional medicine practitioners, I guarantee you they're seeing girls come in where they check off the box, when did you start your first period? And you're seeing age 7, 8, 9, way too often. Okay. There's a national survey of family growth done, and roughly 10% of women reach menarche by the age of 10. Okay. So here's the problem, right? The direction that RFK was talking about was correct. 6 years of age, as far as menarche goes, not necessarily true. There are other components to puberty than menarche, but specifically when others are arguing with RFK or making that statement that he stated, trying to falsify it, they're only discussing menarche. There are other factors that go into that, so make sure that you consider that as well. Okay. Regardless, bottom line, our girls are starting their periods way too early. I'm not saying that there's a perfect time for this, but it needs to be investigated on why that's happening, and we'll dive into the analytics on why that's actually happening, or some theories that holistic health has in a few minutes here. We have to talk about testosterone, though. And this is the elephant in the room for sure. I know a lot of guys are walking around right now with that testosterone level way below 600, which should be the absolute bare minimum. And we're walking around like it's not that big of a deal. And we just get spoon fed that, oh, well, testosterone naturally decreases as you age and everything's fine. But the reality is men have no drive. They have no motivation. They're poor and weak leaders right now. And a lot of that has to do with testosterone levels. I'm not even going to dive into what a man should be doing and how he should be acting, but I look around the room, I look around my peers, I look around people that, I cross paths with, and you can just tell. You can just tell. Today, men around the age of 65 have lower testosterone than men in previous generations. That's just the reality. Now, what RFK was saying is, and this is where the water can get muddied a bit. He said that men now have lower testosterone levels than men who are 65, 10, 15 years ago did. There's some truth to that. Now, is there data proving that? No. But again, the reality is men's testosterone has dropped by 25% from 1999 all the way down to 2016. Okay, I've had men in their early 20s, mid 30s, where testosterone should be at its highest, and it's in the 200s. And I know for a fact there were men back in the 60s, 70s, 80s where they were lifting more weights, they were pushing their body harder, they were okay with being uncomfortable, they were eating more nutrient-dense foods, more proteins that had higher testosterone than a lot of men in their early 20s and 30s do now. There's truth to that. Not a lot of data backing it. Of course, there's not. But that's the fact, and that's what RFK is pointing out. People like to attack the message itself and just completely ignore the fact that something's actually going on, and then we never get anywhere. Well, here it is. Male testosterone, especially in America, is substantially low. It's affecting more people than you realize. If your man can't get out of bed in the morning and has no drive, if he's just playing games on his phone, if he really doesn't want to succeed and make sure that the family is sustained and that you don't have to work, I can go on and on about this, there's a good sign that his testosterone isn't where it needs to be. Let's talk about birth rates and infertility. Globally, 1 in 6 people will experience infertility in their lifetime. I know I've hit hard on the testosterone, but I want to make sure that men know that male infertility is also on the rise. And in one US cohort study, primary infertility rose by 43%. It's going up roughly 1% every single year. Not only are we not having children, but we're having a problem having children. Why is all this happening? Why are testosterone rates or testosterone levels decreasing? Why are women starting their period and puberty earlier? And why can't we have kids? Why are we dealing with an infertility epidemic in this country? A couple things that we want to discuss. Endocrine disruptors. We have a whole podcast episode on that. I believe it was episode 3 or 4. Make sure you check that out on the Healthcare Rewritten podcast that comes out every Thursday. We also have to talk about ultra-processed foods and metabolic dysfunction. That's something that the MAHA movement has been emphasizing and constantly gets demonized by the other side. I'm not here to take sides at this time, but I'm just letting you know addressing ultra-processed foods and metabolic dysfunction is absolutely important, and it's something that just kind of gets brushed off. Okay. We also want to talk about insulin resistance, which goes hand in hand with metabolic dysfunction, and adipose tissue in general. We have more than we ever have. We're fat. A lot of Americans are fat. 50% of Americans are either diabetic or pre-diabetic. That plays a huge role with your hormones. Your adipose tissue is an endocrine organ itself. Chemicals like BPA, phthalates, PFAS, bunch of evidence breaking down how it can contribute to pubertal timing, male reproductive issues, hormone imbalances. On top of that, 50% of our calories that we consume on a daily basis come from ultra-processed foods, full of additives, food dyes, seed oils, synthetic chemicals that are disrupting our hormones, contributing to infertility, low testosterone levels, and early puberty. We have a problem. And when people point it out, they get attacked. Here's the deal. There are so many influencers, there's so many medical doctors who don't want to agree with anything that this administration is saying. Nothing. If this administration said, stop drinking Sprite, how do I want to word this? If they said to drink water, if this administration said to drink water, the other side would say, no, drink Sprite instead. That's exactly what they would say, because they can't agree upon anything, or at least make content saying, hey, you know what, this part is right, or I agree with this value or this principle. No, none of it. And this is built upon, this administration and the MAHA movement is built upon eliminating ultra-processed foods, eating more whole foods, animal-based foods, again, less processed crap, addressing metabolic dysfunction, which contributes to almost all chronic disease. We spend roughly 94% of all of our healthcare costs and spending on chronic preventable disease, $4.1 trillion worth. And that's like, oh, no, we don't care about that. BS. What are we doing? So I'm calling out all creators who just won't have one piece of content agreeing with anything that's been done. It's all spreading hate and division in healthcare, and our children don't deserve that. Our future generation doesn't deserve that, and we don't deserve that. This message isn't supposed to be political. It's supposed to be about biology, facts, and common effing sense. Couple closing thoughts. If you hate a politician more than you hate love, truth, and something that'll fix your health and your children's health and our future generations' health, what are you doing? What can you do about it right now? Here's the deal with testosterone. A lot of it's driven from too much sugar. That's the reality. So if you're male, you feel like your testosterone is low. Obviously, labs can be important to run. Eat less sugar, drink less beer, get outside, move more, lift heavy things, embrace being uncomfortable, get out in the sun. Again, back to common sense. Okay. If you're a female, you're dealing with hormone imbalances. You're a mom, you want to make sure that you're setting your daughters up for success with their hormones. Start looking into BPA, start looking into endocrine disruptors. Find out how you can clean up the home. Kids put so many different chemicals on their body, perfumes, colognes, sprays, everything. And they get bombarded, and it completely disrupts their endocrine system. That's what I have for you today. I hope you all had a wonderful start to your week on Monday. Today is Tuesday, October 21st. We will be back Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday morning. Again, this is a show 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, just where I can share my thoughts with you. If you have anything that you want me to discuss, okay, please send it to me via email. You can send it in the comment section below. Let me know what you want me to discuss on tomorrow's episode, and we will break down health news so you can stay informed for your health and for your children's health. With that being said, I hope you all have a great rest of your day. Remember, your body is talking to you through symptoms. You just have to listen. Thank you all. I'll see you tomorrow.